Why is it that for some players, the game seems slowed down, while for you, most games feel like a sped up, chaotic mess? You've probably watched McDavid slice through defenders like they're standing still, or watched Makar pull off a move that seems impossible and thought, how the hell are they making plays look so easy at that speed? And I know the automatic is, oh, it's just talent. But after studying thousands of hours of how the mental game works in the best players in the world, and researching hundreds of the best sports psychology and mental performance models, I've realized that it's not just talent. I discovered that there's one common skill between all elite athletes in all sports that separates them and allows them to do something that average and pretty good players just can't consistently do. And this skill allows them to stay calm, slow the game down, and play freely without tension. And here's the most important thing. You can develop this skill too. You can get better at it. In fact, you've already tapped into it before. I bet you've had one of those moments on the ice where time just slowed down and you made a play that you were like, wow, how did I even do that? In that moment, you tapped into something scientists call flow state. Flow state, also known as being in the zone, is a mental state, deep immersion and focus in what you're doing, where you experience a sense of effortless action and a loss of self-consciousness or worry. You basically become so connected to the moment that nothing else matters and your instincts just take over and you play freely. And for me in my hockey career, these were always the best times. I remember so many of these moments distinctly where I made plays that I couldn't believe I made. I was so happy about it, and it's just so fun when you get into the state. So the more you can tap into it, the better. And the problem for most players is they only really tap into this maybe once every 5 to 10 games, if that. And what's crazy is no one really talks about this part. Flow isn't something you try to do. In fact, trying hard is actually the biggest problem blocking you right now. And in this video, I'm going to break down how to tap into flow more and more consistently in games so you can start having more of those high performance moments. So first, where did this idea of flow come from? So back in 1964, a psychologist named Abraham Maslow started talking about something called peak experiences, moments of joy, creativity, and super high performance. He studied artists, musicians, everyday people, athletes, and he found that they all described the same feeling, a sense of total absorption where they lost track of time and felt completely alive. Then another researcher, Mihai Csikszentmihalyi, really hard name to pronounce, spent decades diving deeper, and he gave this state a name, flow. Now, why does flow matter with hockey players? Today, neuroscience and performance psychologists say flow is basically the ultimate hack for peak performance, because when you're in flow, your brain stops overthinking, your instincts take over, you react faster, you anticipate plays better, and you start to play way beyond what you even thought you could. And whenever you have a practice where you feel yourself performing at this elite level, it means you're getting into flow in practice. But the difference between a practice player and a game player is somebody who can perform in a game is able to bring that flow state into the games consistently. That's why when you see players like Crosby, Marchand, McKinnon, they're not just skilled, they can enter that zone on demand. And that's what makes them so lethal in games. And the good news is flow isn't just random. It's not just something you're born with. It's a trainable state. And today I'm going to show you how to actually start building it. And by the way, if you're trying to work on your mental game and take it to another level, I put together a free training that breaks down how I teach my pro, D1, and high-level junior guys how to really develop a mental game, how to take it to a whole nother level. So if you want to check it out, the links are below. You can check it out after. Now let's get into the science of flow. So the neuroscience basically says your frontal cortex, or basically the front part of your brain, the one that does all kind of like the self-monitoring and almost like overthinking, literally shuts down when you get into flow. And this is called transient hyperfrontality. And so what happens in your brain is it basically shifts from this state of overthinking into this state of deep connection to what's happening. You stop judging and thinking. And this is also where your default mode network, or DMS, again, that voice that worries, basically shuts down. And what actually lights up is something called your task positive network, or TPN. And this basically helps you fully lock into the moment. And what's really cool about this is when somebody is really tapped into this state, basically what their brain has done is forgotten about who you are, about the future, about the past, and fully brought all of your ability into this moment. And the neurochemicals that are basically firing, just for any of my neuroscience nerds, you have dopamine, which helps you stay focused and motivated in the moment. You have neuroepinephrine, right? This is basically adrenaline. This is what helps you boost alertness and energy to basically really step up and be energized. You have endorphins, which basically are pain blockers and also bring the state of euphoria. And then you have serotonin, which basically gives this kind of afterglow and also increases your ability to learn. So that's what's actually happening inside your brain when you get into flow generally. But here's the kicker. Flow is not something that you can just click on just by saying I want to. It only really comes in under very specific conditions. So you have to learn how to set up those conditions. And this is why you'll often hear people say the flow state is this sweet spot. Because if the challenge you're facing is higher than your skill level or what you're capable of doing or what you believe you're capable of doing, you're going to get anxious or tight. And if it's too low and the challenge isn't really there, you're going to get bored and disengaged. Right? So this is why when you play a really tough top team, maybe somebody you don't believe you can beat, you might actually get more nervous and frustrated. Where if you play a team that isn't quite as good, you might actually struggle to really get up for that game and get dialed in, because both of those are kind of pulling you away from flow. They're keeping you out of that channel. So flow happens when your belief about your skills and your actual skills align with the challenge that you're about to step into. And that's why when you're training, it's so important to constantly be pushing yourself into this channel of challenging yourself, pushing yourself, but not getting so out of whack that you're getting anxious and frustrated because you can't do it, but also not boring yourself by doing the same repetitive things. You have to constantly be challenging yourself in training, which is what is going to make the game feel more and more comfortable, right? This is what backs up all this cliche stuff you hear all these coaches tell you. And even if you do find the sweet spot between challenge and skill, there's one thing that kills flow faster than anything. So let me break this down. The inner game and the two selves. So this is from the inner game of tennis, and it's this concept of you have self one and self two. So self one is basically your inner coach or your inner critic. It's that conscious mind, that inner voice. And then you have self two. This is your instincts. This is your trained subconscious mind or your subconscious software that tells the body what to do when you're in flow. Most players fail because self one tries to take over in games, when in reality, self two needs to be the one fully taking over. This means you need to let your instincts and the things you've trained take over and stop judging yourself and trying to coach yourself through it. Though it feels right to have that voice come in and say, let's go do this, let's make that play, it's actually the slowest part of your decision making. You don't have time in a game to do a math problem and figure out the angle and the time to pass. Your subconscious mind already knows what to do. You've trained that instinct. So you have to train self one to get out of the way. And this means you need to trust your instincts. You need to trust self two. Or as I say to my players, you need to trust your mental software, because ultimately flow is about letting your instincts take over, not trying to force whatever you want to have happen. And so now how do we actually get to this point? It's not just about being skilled. I hope you realize that now. You need to actually retrain your brain to respond differently to pressure, mistakes, and even simple thoughts. That's where the real shift is going to happen. And so these are the psychological keys. If you don't understand them, they're going to crush your game when it comes to big game moments, because your self one or that inner voice or inner coach is going to start getting in the way, and that's going to screw up your ability to actually get into flow. So the first skill you want to learn is something called cognitive diffusion. This is understanding that your thoughts are simply like leaves floating down a river, clouds floating by. They're like something that is external to you. They're not you. They're simply thoughts that are moving and flowing. And so being able to notice your thoughts as separate and notice them floating by is the skill that will allow you to be able to basically get deeper and deeper into flow when the moment gets bigger, because that voice is going to get louder and you have to be able to let it flow by as opposed to getting attached to it. That's what's going to allow you to snap back into the moment in games. Then the second piece is perceiving things as a challenge instead of a threat. This means that you see every situation as an opportunity to challenge yourself and to get better, instead of seeing it as a threat and something that can ruin you or break you or make you look bad. Our brain wants to protect us. That's why that voice in our head comes in, because ultimately we don't see things as opportunities to test our ability and see, can I do it? We see it as an opportunity to show how good we are. When we try to show how good we are trying to protect something and we're scared to lose it. And this makes us play defensive and makes us avoid the play instead of attack it. And so if you want to really step into the moment and step into flow, you basically have to learn to see your thoughts as separate from you, allow them to drift by, not get attached to them, and see each situation as an opportunity to grow instead of something you have to manage and be perfect in. So that mindset sets the stage for everything that you're going to do in flow. And so naturally you're wondering, okay, so what do I actually do now? I understand these concepts, they make sense. How do I actually train my mind to get into flow consistently? So there's 3 core steps to do it, and you really want to look at all 3 as key, because if you skip them, it's going to lead to you probably not being as prepared as you want to be, not being able to get into flow as consistently as you want to get into. And then also the key to understand is that there's also deeper subconscious programming we can go much deeper into, but these are the 3 places to really start if you're not doing these on a consistent basis. So here's how to train for flow. Step 1, and I know you're going to freak out about this one, but meditate daily. Start by just doing 5, 10, or 20 minutes a day of just watching that self one voice in your head. The reason I say this is because when you get into a game, you want to have the skill of being able to notice that voice and being able to diffuse from it. Well, how do you get good at a skill? You practice it. What is meditation? It's practicing the skill of diffusion, right? That's what I'm talking about here, is intentionally watching that voice, intentionally watching and observing it and becoming very conscious of when that voice is there, when it gets louder, being able to observe and just allow it to flow by. That's diffusion. And so if you can meditate on a consistent basis, you're going to watch your brain slowly be able to observe every thought and every judgment and belief. And you'll slowly be able to decide, which beliefs do I want to keep? What do I want to let flow by? And so that's the first key piece. The second one is building your mental software. So you can start by obviously doing the physical reps. So setting up a proper physical routine, having a plan of how you're going to execute your day, what each day is going to look like, writing it out the day before, and knowing I am going to maximize my day to get better tomorrow. If you do this and you stack hundreds of days back to back to back, your confidence is going to go up and your programming is going to be increased, right? Because ultimately when we get to the game, it's our instincts that we've programmed that are going to show up, right? So now the challenge we face is that we can only do so many physical hours of activity, right? There's kind of a limit or a capacity. You can't really skate for like 4 hours a day. But what you can do is do as much training as you possibly can, generally speaking, and then you can use mental reps and mental simulation to increase the depth of that programming and to also practice things that you don't get to practice in other scenarios. You get to visualize game scenarios, big moments, shootout scenarios where the crowd is cheering and all the pressure's on you. You can create those moments in your mind, get very comfortable in those moments. You can train your brain to be prepared for a future that hasn't yet come, but when it does, you will already have the software installed to do that. So that's why you want to visualize consistently every single day. Do the mental reps, do the physical reps, set up a plan and really execute it on it consistently. Now, if you need help setting up a plan, if you need help staying accountable to a plan, you want trackers and things to fill out, that's what our higher level programs include, is how to set all that stuff up, how to set up your calendar, how to become a truly professional player, not just playing at a pro level, but become a true pro in the sense of I take this as everything I do is built around being the best hockey player I can be. So that's what those programs are. You can click below and check out I think it's the first link if you want to learn more about what it looks like to work with us. And then the third piece is using the conscious mind to program the subconscious mind. And this is what self-talk really is, but you want to think of self-talk as long-term programming that is kind of like chipping away at a stone, chipping away at like a big boulder. You're not going to change your entire subconscious mind by just talking yourself differently, but it will start to influence you consistently over and over because the voice in your head, it's the coach that you have, right? Like when you think about it, you have your team coach, which says, hey, do this thing, go here, do this, do that. And then you have your internal coach, which has its own perspective, right? That voice in your head that tells you go here, do this, do that, right? That's your inner coach. And so having a good structure for being an inner coach matters a lot. That is the game. Like high quality thinking, high quality mental processing is the way that you're going to train your subconscious mind. If you say to yourself, okay, I'm going to show up to the rink at this time, that's you coaching yourself to do it. When you say, okay, let's focus on this for the shift, you're taking self one, that conscious mind, and instructing the subconscious mind to do something. This is you training your subconscious mind, just like you train a dog to do what you want it to do. You request, hey, go do this thing, and then see if your subconscious mind can do it. The biggest mistake that we make is that we think that our internal self-talk is actually the action. It's not. It's the instructor. The coach does the coaching, and then when you get onto the ice, the player plays. That's what you have to be able to do as a player, is master your self-talk, right? Things like, I'm a dominant player, I'm confident, I can make plays, I'm a game changer, whatever that internal self-talk is. You want to understand what type of self-talk works. So is it I am statements? Is it you are statements? Is it I challenge myself with kind of saying like, you can't do this, they don't believe in you, maybe you can't do it, and you challenge yourself, right? There's multiple different ways to do it. There's an entire structure and approach you can take. But ultimately, self-talk, self-coaching, or what we call self-leadership is a very complex and nuanced skill set that really separates many players who are leaders from people who are just kind of like guys who show up more like followers on the team. The ability to talk to yourself, lead yourself, get yourself organized, the way you speak to yourself on a day-to-day basis, like what do you do when you get up? How do you stay disciplined to training? How do you show up to the rink ready to go? How do you speak to your coaches, your teammates? How do you handle the media if you're a higher level player playing, whether it's major junior hockey, this becomes more important, whether you're playing college, pro, all of this stuff is the ability to really be the best version of yourself. And in order to be that, you have to be able to coach yourself effectively. So that's why internal self-talk is not this thing where we just say, I am this, I am that, and it all works out. It's much more nuanced than that. Now you can simplify it down to just I am statements if you want to kind of start with, level one, but there's really, 10 plus levels you can go to. And that's what we teach in our higher level programs, is how to really become a great self-coach and self-leader. And so once you've put together these kind of three core pieces of the puzzle, which I would consider your preparation for flow. So it's doing daily meditation to consistently get your brain into the right right space to be able to diffuse from your thoughts, observe your thoughts, and just kind of let them detach. That skill is very, very key. So you need to develop that. Then you build your software, you use physical reps, you use mental reps, and you program the software you want to have. And then you really start to learn the first core level of self-talk of I am statements, you are challenging statements, and start to build those into your game and figure out what works. Then from there, there's something that's extremely important that oftentimes we can miss or just say, oh, well, I did the prep work, now I'm good. This is what you need to do next. This is having an effective pre-game routine and having routines and tools that you can use in the game to get yourself in the right place. And then it's what you do after the game and how you reflect and to make adjustments and improvements after you've actually played, got into flow, you come out of it, and then you need to improve from that. And I'm going to break all of those down in next week's video. So like all YouTubers say, if you don't want to miss the next video that breaks all this stuff down and builds off everything we just talked about, subscribe and then turn on notifications so you actually see it pop up when we do post the next video. But ultimately, let's get clear on everything you want to take away here. Flow is not something you force. Flow is something you have to let happen. And it's really a byproduct of training your mental software, learning to diffuse from your thoughts, from emotions, and being able to zoom deeply into the moment, being able to turn on and off certain parts of your brain. This comes from proper preparation of the mind and the body. And then it's having skills and tools to be able to reset and really let go whenever you get into the moment so that flow just takes over. And this is really the entire philosophy of identity shift. You build your identity, then you trust it, and you have systems to bring you back anytime you lose that trust or lose the performance. And if you're a serious player who's looking to level up your mental game this off season or season, and you want to learn more about how we've taken hundreds of players through the identity shift method and taught them how to not just change how they think a little bit, but transform the way they feel, the way they think, and where they perform on the ice, you can click below and there's a link where you can see what the system looks like, how it works. And if you're interested, you can apply and we'll see if we can help you. We don't accept everybody. We work with players that we feel confident we can actually help. We'll jump on a quick 15-minute call with you. No pitch, no nothing. We're just going to basically tell you, hey, it doesn't make sense to jump on a longer call and we can actually talk for a full hour and break things down, or we'll just give you some free resources that will help you right away. We'll direct you towards the right videos, the right lessons, the right cheat sheets, and just give you what we think will be the best move for you moving forward. Appreciate you watching, and comment below if there's any specific videos you want me to go deeper with, any topics you want me to hit. And if you want to learn more about working together, you can also comment below and I'll send you some info as well.